Right, so in this one, I'm going to talk about the Hart Legacy Wrestling, which I think is considered has some kind of controversy with it. So I'm going to go into that basically. So, it's a Canadian wrestling promotion operated by some of the members of the Hart family. It was mainly founded by Teddy Hart and his associates. Smith Hart was also involved with the promotion prior to his death in 2017. His longtime partner, Sidney Angel, is the current owner of the promotion, and Bret Hart has no involvement. So, we're going to get into the histories, and then we're going to get into the controversy of the actual promotion. So, the shows. There's the history of the shows. The promotion was announced in 2012, founded, and their first show was at Victoria Pavilion in 2013. In 2013, HAL held a show at Stampede Pavilion named The Resurrection. The event starred wrestlers such as Conan, Chris Masters, Bobby Lashley, Trent Beretta, Samurai Del Sol, the Super Smash Bros. Cody Hall, as well as the IWGP Tag Team Champions Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer. The event had a final Canadian independent appearance by El Generico before he was signed in WWE. It also featured a 12-man battle royal consisting mostly of local talent. Kevin Nash had to pull out of the event after his wife became ill. During the event, Peter Wilson suffered a shoulder injury and was rushed to the ER. Harry Smith and Teddy Hart would have a rematch in 2014 after Smith returned after performing in Japan. In September 2015, an event held featured a match of the NWA World Women's Champion between Santana Garrett and Shoji Makachiko, I think, which Garrett won. It also featured two matches with Teddy Hart. In December of 2015, the promotion held Hopes and Ropes charity event at Rachman's Roadhouse. It ended in 30-minute time limit draw. The event was put together as the Aboriginal Friendship Centre of Calgary. The main event between Smith and Hart was the Stu Hart Heavyweight Championship belt. The event's goal was to raise enough money for anti-bullying and self-confidence programs for children. In February 2016, it was announced that the next event that would be held on March 6, 2016, and that the main event would be once again Teddy Hart versus David Hart Smith for the vacant Stu Hart Heritage title, which ended in a 30-minute time limit draw. The event would be held again at the Ranchman's Roadhouse, and in July 2016, the company held an event called the Stu Hart Memorial Cup at Ranchman's Roadhouse, which featured Davey Boy Smith Jr. defeating Chris Masters to win the cup. In February 2020, the fifth event that was held in the back alley in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that featured a freelance indie and the Ultra Pro wrestlers. That also had appearances by Ken Shamrock, who was the manager for winning wrestlers in the main event. The promotion had further events planned for 2020 before COVID happened. Are we all going to get into the controversies and that? So this is going to be quite a short video, I think, about the controversies. So the payments. In the 2013 show Resurrection was followed by the many wrestlers claiming that the promotion failed to pay them. A hotel manager in the area also had stated that a large amount of rooms were booked, but no bills were ever paid by the promotion. Teddy Hart claimed that the responsibility lays with the owners and the promoters. John Oyston and Stacey Angel Olzak. Others have maintained that Teddy was the one who said to be in charge. Hart continued to state that he simply lent his name to the event and featured as a wrestler. He did not handle any of the other aspects of the promotion. Wrestlers Lance Storm and Jeff Jackson, who served as play-by-play commentators for the event, had slated that John Oyston, who was the promoter for the event, had talked to everyone backstage after the show and concluded and ensured that they would be paid eventually and that they would receive a bonus of $100 Canadian. Late 2013, Jackson told CBS Radio once again that he mentioned that Oyston had said to him and other workers from the event that they would be given money later on and that they constipated for the troubles. He added that Teddy Hart, David Hart Smith and Wayne Hart were the only Hart family members to be involved in the promotion at the time of the event. He also stated that while he had at the time said still not been paid, that he did not expect his payment to ever come. Jackson claimed that the pavilion which the event was held had at least between 1,200 and 1,800 people in it, and was least the cheapest ticket was for 25 Canadian dollars. So there should not have been any problem to pay everyone. Jackson claimed that HLW originally planned another event on February 22nd that was supposed to feature former WWE wrestler John Morrison, but the event was cancelled due to issues. The February show was replaced by the new promotion handled by the same people, and the professional wrestling newsletter Four Figure Online made the following statement. The Hart wrestling promotion in Calgary, with all the issues regarding payment of wrestlers, has shut down, but essentially the same group without John Onionston is running the new promotion called Triple Eight Canada. Next Generation Wrestling on 222 at the Victoria Pavilion in Calgary with John Morrison, Kevin Nash, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Conan, Teddy Hart, Jack Evans, and Necro Butcher. A press conference was scheduled for Calgary today, and they claim that all the talents have already been paid in advance, and that to run an IPPV that will be taped for the next day. BJ Annis, the father of Teddy Hart, is behind the new company, and the Spencer Tabley is the first person for talent and media. Tabley also wrote the letter to talent, blaming Onions for the deceitful and being deceitful, and said that the only reason they were over budget was because of his charge bought airline tickets at the last minute. This issue was settled in by 2015. Now, the other one is David Benoit. In April of 2014, Smith Hart announced that David Benoit, the son of controversial wrestler Chris Benoit, was to make his in-ring debut at the Hart Legacy Wrestling on July 18th in Calgary in a tag team match with Chavo Guerrero, a friend of his father Chris. Hart claimed that Benoit had been trained by his nephew David Hart Smith. The match was later cancelled, and in May, when another friend of David's father, Chris Jericho, informed Guerrero that David did not have any formal training, prompting Guerrero to pull out the match. Hart had told different versions of the two men to the two men. The Guerrero had said that David had received training for that match, but had also told Jericho that David would not be wrestling, just involved in storyline. Jericho insisted that David would not be included in the show due to his lack of training, and was reportedly upset when the promotion for using David to advertise the show. Now I understand why that can be considered controversial, because if he hadn't been trained, then that would have been gone down badly for Guerrero. Obviously, with who his father is, and the fact that he looks a lot like his father, I think he's not going to go very far in the business because of what his father has done, and no one can forgive his father. I don't think we should let that affect him as a person because of the way he looks and what his family had done, because he knew a different side of his father to what everyone else knew. So that is all like the controversies of this kind of thing. So we're going to get into like the wrestlers who were involved. I don't. So I'm going to go into the Hearts of Wrestling, a pay-per-view that also suffered several controversies as well, because this is a very short video. So I'm going to get into Heroes of Wrestling, which is a bit longer. So Heroes of Wrestling was a professional wrestling pay-per-view. It took place on October 10th, 1999, from Casino Magic Hotel and a casino in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. The event was meant to be a first series of pay-per-views that would feature popular wrestler stars from the 80s and early 90s. But the plan for the franchise was abandoned following the event, which suffered from poor buy rate and several controversies, including the Calamantis main event, where it's intoxicated Jake Roberts teamed up with Yokozuna in a tag match, only to lose to Jim Neidhart and King Kong Bundy. Now, the production of it is playing off the resurgence in popular pro wrestling at the time. Stone Productions president Bill Stone convinced the series of events consistent of wrestling stars of the 80s and early 90s fighting one another in a series of dream matches. He expressed that his surprise that the World Wrestling Federation had not already put such an event. Stone intended to run 3 more pay-per-views and run on a quarterly basis if an initial target of 40,000 buys was reached. Recruitment of wrestlers began in May 1999. Sid Vicious was the first to be approached, and he recruited Michael Lombardi, promoter of North Beach Wrestling in New York, and to act as a booker. However, Sid was signed to exclusively WCW in June of that year and did not appear. Vader, Terry Funk, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Honky Tonk Man were all approached but declined. Additionally, Nick Bockwinkel was advertised but did not appear due to WWE owned trademarks. Yokozuna and the Bushwhackers referred to Affleck's former in all advertising. A match was planned involving Too Cold Scorpio and Reckless Youth in order to break up the slower matches with fast-paced action. However, Youth was signed to WWE after developmental deal and an interim and was replaced by Giulio Fantasio. Now we're going into the reception, the controversy surrounding Heroes of Wrestling. So although the event was heavily promoted, it was purchased by 29,000 households. Additionally, the event itself was considered to be extremely poor quality. Wrestling Observer rated it the worst major wrestling event of all of 1999, with the editor Dave Meltzer giving a rating of absolute 0, and to a tag team match featuring Luke Williams and Butch Miller facing the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Meltzer's colleague Brian Alvarez of the Fourth Figure Weekly has repeatedly referred to this match as the worst he's ever seen and rated it minus more stars than there are in the universe. PW Insider's Mike Johnson called it one of the worst pay-per-views ever. The colour commentary and the minor controversy initially erupted at the beginning of the broadcast due to the last-minute change of commentators. Originally, Gordon Soley, a well-respected figure in wrestling with the over 40 years experience delivering play-by-play, had been advertised as one of the event's commentators along with Ted DiBiase. However, shortly before the event, Soley fell ill with throat cancer, and DiBiase was replaced at last minute by Dutch Mantel. No romance was made of these changes before the show, and neither Soley nor his illness mentioned during the whole broadcast. Soley's replacement, Randy Rosenblum, appeared to have little to no knowledge of professional wrestling, delivering what would come to be regarded as the worst commentary ever at a professional wrestling event. Rosenblum repeatedly made mistakes during the broadcast, such as misidentifying wrestlers, countries, and origin, and also had repeatedly corrected on a basic wrestling terminology of broadcast patterns, and telling Captain Lou Albano, such as when called an arm drag performed by Marty Jannetty, a reverse slam takedown, and then his inability to identify a simple drop kick, repeatedly calling a maneuver such as a flying kick, flying leg kick, and a leg drop. Now we're going to get into the Jake Roberts incident, which I think is the most well known about this incident. So the show was originally booked to conclude with the double main event of Jake Roberts and Jim Neidhart, followed by King Kong Bundy against Yoko. Roberts' problems with drugs and alcohol addiction had been well publicised in the preceding years, and his booking of the main event was meant to capitalise on the resurgence in popularity that he had enjoyed as a result of his attempt at sobriety. Roberts' return to the ring was meant to be a high point in the evening, and when the match responsible for generating the most publicity. However, Roberts suffered a relapse prior to the show and consumed a significant amount of alcohol before arriving. Prior to his match, Neidhart Roberts had been scheduled to cut a promo in which he would taunt Neidhart due to his level of intoxication. Roberts' promos consisted of slurred, incoherent rants, consisting largely of wordplay based on the events of the casino setting. One particular segment of rant would go viral after he posted on Wrestle Crap. You don't want to play cards with me because I'll cheat. Okay, I'll cheat. You want to play 21? I've got 22. You want to play blackjack? I've got 2 of those. 2. You want to play aces and eights, baby? I've got too many of those too. After the interview, Roberts staggered into the ring with trademark snake. However, upon reaching the ring, Roberts put the snake down and attempted to return backstage. He then reversed course and returned to ringside and began greeting fans, but entering the ring, Roberts grabbed a female fan and started to rub her hands on his bare chest. Later, Roberts removed the snake from the bag, simulating masturbation with it, and the event's producers cut to wide shots of the crowd during the incident, so that home viewers were aware of what was happening in the ring. Roberts eventually collapsed in the middle of the ring with the snake draped over his body. The supine Roberts then began to attempt to kiss the snake. In the effort to salvage the match, Bill Stone decided on the fly to combine the main events into one tag team event, by sending Bundy to team with Neidhart and Yoko to team with Roberts. Stone then sent a member of the production crew, Michael Henry, to ringside to consult the wrestlers. There was no finished plan for this match. None of the wrestlers involved were willing to take the fall. Bundy and Yoko had even had it written into the contracts that they would not be pinned or submitted. Bundy pinned Roberts by hitting him with a splash after Roberts staggered and fallen around the ring several times. Despite Roberts not being the legal man in the ring, Yoko and Henry attempted to salvage the event and Roberts' reputation by trying to goad Roberts into attacking Henry, making his behaviour appear scripted. Roberts was too inebriated to realise what was happening and remained oblivious to Yoko and Henry's attacks. Yoko then hit a Samoan drop on Henry to make the entire series of the events appear scripted. While Yoko attacked Henry, Roberts began to disrobe in the middle of the ring and producers cut the feed immediately thereafter. In 2019, Roberts played the role of the card of the dealer in the promotional material of Casino Battle Royal match at All Out, including his hero of wrestling appearance. Alluding to his hero of wrestling appearance, he had completed a drug rehabilitation program to help a fellow wrestler, Diamond Dallas Page, years earlier. Now, I know that this one is one of the most well-known controversies about how bad it was, about the people involved. I thought I'd combine the heroes of wrestling with HLW because it's just two different examples of trying to run a show or run pay-per-views and not having the right people involved. So this is the controversy about both of them. It's not really that much to really go into with both of them. It's just the fact that what happened with them, the fact people didn't get paid, and the miscommunication of who's going to be there and who's not going to be there, and not saying anything about it. Obviously, with the Heroes of Wrestling, it's a bit different because of the last couple of matches and the fact that they advertised a couple of people, didn't say that those people aren't going to be there anymore. It's like false advertising, which in itself in wrestling is very controversial because you cannot go, this person's going to be here, then people buy tickets, they get buyer's remorse because you haven't promoted who's actually going to be there. They're going to regret, they're going to want their money back. So yeah, Hart Legacy Wrestling, I think that's the main issues with that one is the money and David Moore being included, but I think the way they put that he was going to be there, he shouldn't have been used in a way if he wasn't going to be there, and the fact that David Hart Smith said one thing to one person, another thing to another, and David Benoit not being there. I know that a few people have issues with him because of who his father was, but it's not on him, that's on his father, you know what I mean? Like, if he wants to go into wrestling, just let him. It's not his fault he looks like his father. It's not his fault his father did that. You should be allowed to try, even if it's just minor roles in a show, but you shouldn't false advertise his person or tell like Chavo that he's trained. So that's the main reason why that's controversial in that way. And obviously not paying someone, paying your wrestlers, they still haven't got their payment like years later. They're going to talk about it. They're going to go, well, this was awful because I didn't get paid for it. You know, that I think sometimes when you're in a position where you know what you're meant to be doing, then you should ideally do it right, because otherwise you're just going to get a bad reputation throughout your career and your career's ruined. But yeah, that's just like, I thought I'd do a small controversial video for I'm recording this the day before, so I recorded the same day I did the one I had yesterday of Easter. I'm putting it out on Tuesday. So I just thought I'd do a quick one to put out tomorrow, on Tuesday, the 7th, I think it is, Tuesday the 7th. About a bit of controversy. I haven't done a controversy in a while, but these two I thought, I hope you like it. There's not much controversy I haven't done yet. You might have to look through what I have done and what I haven't done, because I write everything down so I know. But if there's anything you do want me to go through, just comment or message me or something.